Hello everyone, my name is Alden Stewart and the time has come for me to start my own YouTube channel. Now I have to admit, for me personally, it's a little strange in the sense that, well, I don't have a following yet, and so no one's probably going to watch this video, at least not initially, right? And so I guess the reason why I'm making this introductory video is for the possibility that in future I develop a likening or some interest to myself or my content at least. And so this will be there for you guys to revert back to and potentially learn more about me and a bit of my story. And so to get right into some of the reasons why I've decided to start this channel, first I should say what the channel will really be about. Guys, I've been through some things over the past couple of years. To name a few, I developed obsessive compulsive disorder, which I don't really know if I developed and if I've always had that and was just always kind of dormant inside of me. I had a really bad eating disorder. I guess all eating disorders are actually bad. So yeah, I had an eating disorder. I was on numerous exogenous hormones, thyroid, testosterone replacement, and I was on many different antidepressants. And so I feel like I came out the other end. I'm not on any exogenous hormones anymore. I'm not on any antidepressants anymore. And so I feel like I would love to share some of the things that I did, some of the things that I went through, and hopefully help many of you guys out there potentially going through similar situations. So the first reason I decided to start this channel, I guess really is just the fact that I believe this could benefit me and my own career. The second reason, which is certainly the most important reason, is the fact that, as mentioned, I've been through some things over the past couple of years, and I made a promise during a specific instance that if I could get through what I was going through at the time, I would help as many people as I possibly could, as cliche as that sounds. And so I guess I'm delivering on that promise right now. And so the third reason is the fact that by nature, I'm an extremely curious individual. And so because I have obsessive compulsive disorder, I really love predictability and I'm quite rigid and I like certainty and I track everything. And so I'm a natural bodybuilder. I'm an absolute fan of the sport. And that isn't limited to only natural bodybuilding. I follow the IFBB judiciously and I know exactly what's going on there. And I live a bodybuilding lifestyle. I track everything I eat. I train 6 to 7 days a week. I eat, sleep, breathe bodybuilding. And so I also do these little experiments and I try and control for all variables. And I would like to consider myself evidence-based, and not necessarily in the experiments that I do, but in my practices and the way that I operate in the bodybuilding sphere. And so I would love to tell you guys more about my background and share some of my story. Quick note, I am filming this video in my room at my house during my lunch break, as I actually have my own practice, which is just down the road. But the obsessive compulsive disorder never left, right? So I have perfectionistic tendencies, and if things aren't perfect or don't feel right, and guys, some of my standards are unrealistically high. Like it will never be perfect. And so I couldn't get this done at my office, and I decided I will give it a shot now. Just start recording, and if I get it done, that's cool. And if I don't, that's okay. So I'm confident though in saying that the eating disorder is completely relinquished, and so much so that I'm actually the heaviest I've ever been. Many people say that they can see that clearly in my face, as apparently I have a moon face now. So that's all good. Guys, ever since I can remember, I've wanted to be the best at absolutely everything. Now, I was probably an arrogant little kid, and that's changed over the years. And at around age 14, I became extremely self-conscious and self-aware. And I believe some of the reasons may include the fact that we live on a coast, so we would go to the beach often with friends and obviously be without our shirts. And in South Africa, rugby is kind of a big deal. And so I played rugby, and I eventually did skateboarding, and all of these include taking off your shirts around friends and your teammates. And with rugby specifically, it was a little overwhelming to me in the sense that I wasn't the best when we took off our shirts. In fact, that was far from the case. I was very, very far from being a physical specimen or gifted in regard to athletic ability. And so I was never really great at rugby or skateboarding. But anyway, so we would take off our shirts for rugby practice to get ready, and I was on the skinny fat end of the spectrum. And man, I hated the way that I looked. Yeah, it wasn't great. And with skateboarding, eventually that was also the case, because skaters, they skate without these shirts. And yeah, I became very, very, very self-conscious, and I was willing to do something about it. And me and my mates joined a local gym, which was just down the road from my school, and we started training hard. And it was all fun and games in the beginning, and I always had this mentality that I would just outwork anyone, right? And so I knew it was only a matter of time, or so I thought. And me and my mates would train 3 or 4 days in the week, and I would secretly train and do extra workouts in the morning before school, and crazy ab workouts and things like this. But it was never really, anything negative about that, and it was actually kind of exciting. And so over the years, my lunch started changing for school, and my mom was very supportive, and she made all the weird things I requested. And as life went on, I started drinking more alcohol, and I started smoking and doing all kinds of party drugs and things like this. And the body image issues never waned, and they become more pronounced. And at age 17, I was training religiously about 5 days a week. And then I would just binge my way and, absolutely let go over the weekend. And I was a people pleaser, and so I really couldn't say no. In fact, I believe one of the most beneficial things I've learned to date is to learn how to say no. So guys, I was drinking a lot of alcohol. I was smoking, but I was also just trying to outwork my bad habits. And as many of you guys will probably know, that the laws of thermodynamics don't really discriminate, right? It's calories in, calories out. And if you can't outtrain a bad diet if you're in caloric excess. And so I could never get rid of my adipose tissue around my midsection specifically. And it was overwhelming to me. And I tried various diets. So I tried the Omar diet, which is a 1 meal a day diet. I did high carb, low carb, high fat, low fat. And the fat just never waned. And I just kept on stepping it up a notch, training harder, training longer. And eventually I became more and more of a recluse. And after getting my first job, I really started becoming a little bit compulsive in my ways. And then I got a job at a company called Ultron, which is kind of huge, and they sent me off to a mine. And I was still a big people pleaser, so I would nail everything for 5 days in the week, and then on weekends I would just binge my way back up and party hard. And I started retracting from all of these social events, and I became a total recluse. And eventually I discovered the laws of thermodynamics, and boom, I lost like 15 kilos very rapidly, which turned out to not be a great long-term approach or strategy. And so I was around probably 7 or 8% body fat, and I maintained that. I thought I was going to be there indefinitely, and that became the new standard. And man, it was hell from there. I maintained that level of leanness for 4 years straight, became a total recluse. My friends stopped inviting me to the parties, or jewels as we call them here, and I became very productive in that time, I will say. I read every self-help book under the sun. I got many qualifications while I was working a full-time job, and somehow I managed to prep every single meal and not miss a day of training. And I was weighing myself compulsively. And I remember one instance when I took creatine and my weight spiked up, which is a good thing. I'll probably make a video on that, but if you're not aware, basically everyone produces creatine, and if you don't produce enough creatine naturally, and you'll probably get a spike from supplementing from an exogenous source. And so my weight spiked up, and obviously me being irrational and just using the scale as the only proxy for improvement, as the scale jumped up, I remember I freaked out, man. I wanted to, and I had a couple of bulimic events. I had a couple of, I would describe my eating disorder as exercise bulimia. Now, I don't know if this is in the DSM yet, but basically I was compensating by over exercising. So if I had a party at night, I would try and work out how many calories I was going to consume. Specifically, this would be alcohol calories, because I would just starve myself if I was drinking, because I kind of figured out the laws of thermodynamics at that point. And so I would, spin for 2 hours before going out on a jog. Now you can imagine how you would feel after that, and having no fuel, no calories in your body, and being single digit body fat. It was hell, man. And so I just eventually stopped going out completely. And I had all these little crazy rituals, and the obsessive compulsive disorder became bad. I had to check light switches. I washed my hands to the point where I got sores, and it was just hell. And I think I realized something was up when I became a complete asshole to our animals, because I love animals, and I just got so annoyed. I started eating in my room. My family was scared to be around me in the kitchen, and I didn't really know what was going on. I could justify everything that I was doing. If I wanted to be in the kitchen at 6 a.m, I would kind of make the argument that, well, why can't everyone just plan? Why just tell me when you want to use the kitchen, and then I'll be on the second, I will be there, and I will be out, and it's like, who has to reserve their own kitchen? It's like, people aren't robots, right? And so I couldn't understand that, at least not initially. In retrospect now, I'm kind of embarrassed, and I'm very happy I managed to get out of that trance, because you only realize how bad the eating disorder really was. Many people only realize they have an eating disorder once they start getting better. And so if there's advice I can give to anyone who is in an anxious state like this, it's don't try and make things more conducive to your little idiosyncrasies to make it easier for yourself, because it'll make you worse. You want to be forced, not too much, that'll overwhelm you, but slowly you want to be forced to get nudged out of that, because it's a form of CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's what helped me, I guess, as I worked on a mind, or I had to work on a mind. And initially I took microwaves and pressure cookers and my scale, my food scale, my body weight scale. And even there I was doing 15-kilometer runs before work. I was working a physical full-time job. And then afterwards I would go and train. I would drive an hour and a half to the nearest gym, which was an hour and a half away, just to go and train for 2 hours. And it was hectic, guys. I remember one instance, because I was so food focused at one point that everything revolved around food, and I was kind of just this void in life. Nothing really mattered to me. I remember music, which is actually a very big part of my life, and it has been since I can remember. I'm actually quite talented in music, which is ironic, because I at best have maybe 5.5 out of 10 genetics for bodybuilding. And so I chose the sport, if you can even call it that, and I had music, and I had a real thing going there, but I guess I was never really as passionate about the music thing. And so I was planning out when me and my mom were going to do this half marathon in Cape Town, which is an hour and a half from the small town where I stay, which is called Langebaan. And I planned out exactly to the macro, to the calorie, to the gram, what I was going to eat. And it was all these cheat foods, like pizza, and like you can really quantify and track accurately the calories and macros in that. But anyway, so I planned out this amazing cheat day, and I used marathons and training as kind of like a mirage to kind of obfuscate what was really going on. And so we did the half marathon, and after that I got through half of the list that I had made, and I was really disappointed in myself. And so on our way back from Cape Town, we had to stop, and I had to vomit repeatedly on our way back, because I binged my face off. And when we got home, I felt so bad. I felt fat, I felt bloated, and I got on my spinning bike and I spun right through the night. And I think I had an epiphany there that, yes, this was not, something was up, and that I probably needed to get help, or that something needed to change. So this went on for 4 years, and in that time I was on numerous SSRIs. My hormones were crushed, and I went on testosterone replacement, and I came off again. And I will say though that I actually recovered my HPTAs and my hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis to higher testosterone levels than I was before starting testosterone replacement, which is amazing. And I'll make a whole nother video on that, I'm sure. And so I guess if I could give that little guy advice today, I would just say, man, have a meal with your family. If you are doing this in pursuit of a bodybuilding goal, that's amazing. But if you are doing this because you believe that you will be happier, and it's not easy to say these things when one is already lost or in that trance, because nothing really will hit home, because you're just so, I don't know, delirious. You're completely irrational at that point. And so what I would tell that younger guy is, honestly, you're missing the forest for the trees. Go and have a meal with your family, track for 5 or 6 days and have a free meal. It's really, really, really gonna be more of a detriment to have that level of stress and nail everything 7 days a week than to have stress that's absolutely down here and to be on the plan 95% of the time, or 90% of the time even. So I guess that is my story, and I will make more videos. I hope this was helpful or relatable in some way. And I guess I should end with all of the typical cliche YouTube things that one says, like, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, as I would genuinely be curious if some of you guys can relate, or if you guys have questions for me. So just quickly before I end off, I have my own business at this point. Things are going great. As mentioned, I'm actually in a bulk now, and I've learned a lot about natural bodybuilding and enhanced bodybuilding. I know a lot about hormones, nutrition, dietetics, and so I'm planning on really making a difference in this field, and I would appreciate the support, guys. Thank you.